So before we get into the actual sort of work where we actually learn how to do a composite, I kind of want to go over the differences between something like layer-based compositing or node-based compositing. You might have heard these terms being thrown around, but like layer-based compositing is you do generally in something like After Effects, which is going to be very similar to how something like Photoshop works. So in layer-based compositing, you just have a whole bunch of layers on top of each other, and then you mask something out, you multiply stuff together, and it's kind of works the same as Photoshop. And I'm like, if you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with Photoshop. And it's kind of the same with layer-based compositing in something like After Effects. It essentially kind of works the same and similar to something like Photoshop. Like if you want to draw a mask on multiple layers at once, you can put them in a folder or put them in a like in a smart object, and you can work on that, and you're kind of getting like smart object in smart object or folder in folder. It's kind of like how layer-based compositing works. So that's similar in After Effects as it is in in something like Photoshop. So pretty simple to understand. Node-based compositing is quite different. So in node-based compositing, you're working with a node graph, and you do have, like, for example, a timeline and stuff like that, which you can look through. But the main meat of the things which you're like generally working on is going to be nodes. So similar to if you're working in Houdini. So I guess you could compare it to something like if you're working in Cinema 4D, you're working with like objects within like nulls and like parroting stuff, and then you have something like Houdini, which is like nodes, and you're linking nodes to other nodes and stuff like that. So node-based compositing is really like that, and it has a lot of benefits when you're doing actual compositing. So because it's just very easy to reference other nodes in your network. Layer-based compositing has some other benefits, but I'm going to get into all of that. So examples of layer-based compositing is essentially After Effects. There are not really that many other layer-based compositors. And in terms of node-based compositing, mainly Fusion and Nuke. And most of this course is going to be covering Fusion because that's just what I use. So anyway, without further ado, let's just get into two composites that I made. So I'm using, for this example, I'm using a composite that I made for a course that I did for side effects, which is called SESI snacks, or side effect snacks for short, where we make a complete candy commercial from scratch in Houdini, and we eventually also end up compositing it in Fusion. With that course is also free, by the way, which you can check out with the link in the description. And I figured this would make for a good sort of introductory example, because some of you might have followed that actual course, so you might kind of already be a little bit familiar with those things. If you haven't watched that course, it should still make for a good example, but that's why I kind of picked this. So what I did is I recreated the composite for the shot that I did during the SESI Snacks course, also in After Effects. And I'm gonna go over the sort of the different workflows now between the composite that I did in After Effects and the composite that I did in Fusion. And then hopefully you'll be able to sort of tell the differences between layer-based and node-based compositing. And this is going to be the only video where we're actually dealing with After Effects, because after this, everything will be done in Fusion. Anyway, without further ado, let's just dive into the compositor and just start having a look around. So we're just going to have this very simple composite here, which is the one that I made during the SESI Snacks course. And again, you can check that course out with the link in the description. It's a completely free course where we built this commercial from scratch. All of the shots. So if you want to check that out, you can do that on the Side Effects website, link in the description. Anyway, I have the composite here. So I have all my individual passes here. Don't worry if you don't understand what these render passes are. I'm going to get into that in the next video. But I have all my render passes here. And so we're compositing everything together here. So we're making the beauty here, doing some denoising. We're left here with a render. Then over here I'm doing some color correction. So I'm changing the color here of the chocolate a little bit, and then I'm adding some depth of field here, some overall color correction, I'm transforming it here, then I'm cropping it out. And all pretty straightforward and easy to sort of see the entire thing in one go. And then after that we can render it out. And also you can notice that we have these nodes here. So this is open color IO, and I'm gonna go into that, and I need to, by the way, change this because I just reconfigured my ACES. So this is color space transforms. So now it looks weird. I'm gonna get into that in the next video on like what it is, but in Fusion you just have your color transform here as a simple button, which you can toggle on and off and change some settings. You know, just everything you view through the color transform, which is not the case in After Effects. That's why I'm mentioning it. So yeah, here we have this composite. Now let's look into After Effects and see how it compares. So I made roughly the same composite here. Yeah, I mean, it looks a little bit different, but just essentially it's because of the colors. So here we have the same color transform thing here. So if I turn that off, it's gonna turn off the color composite thing, and you can see it looks a little bit weird, but that's the same as if we do it here. So in After Effects you have it like as a layer, and you need to put that layer everywhere. You need to do that, and in After Effects it is really slow to use this. Like if I turn this off, again it's still going to be slow, by the way, but it's if I scrub through this, but this thing just really slows it down by quite a significant amount, even if I have my GPU usage on. So and that's one of the things as well. Like After Effects is pretty slow when it comes to just pure compositing with EXRs, multi-layer EXRs. You can see it if I try to play through this. See, it's pretty slow. If I do it in here, and this is even without any denoising stuff. If I do it in here, this is with denoising. It's about the same speed. Probably if I turn off the denoising, it's going to be even faster. Let's just do it like that. So you can see it's chugging through it quite a bit faster. The thing I have here is I wrote out a proxy, but I don't have that here in After Effects, but you could do that. So yeah, let's just walk through it again. So let's go into our beauty comp here, and then into our another pre-comp. So this is one of the things that you're going to notice in After Effects. You're going to need to pre-comp a lot. With pre-comp means you're going to have all these elements, and then you package them together in a separate composition, and then you work on that. So here I'm doing the same thing. Let me just grab my also my open color IO thing here. So you need to put that open color IO thing everywhere as a guide layer. You can see it's really slow. Right, so we have this thing here. So we have all of our individual passes here, and I'm adding them together. That's similar to what I'm doing here. But the difference here being is that I can have an outlook over the entire thing without needing to jump out of it. So here I'm doing this comp, and then I'm going into another layer. So then my comp is it's pre-comped. So then we're left with like this thing. Let me go on the open color IO as well. So now we have that thing, and then I wanna grade a little bit here of the thing, and you need plugins for that in After Effects. So what I have my the puzzle mat thing here. That's this thing. That's similar to what I have here. And then After Effects, I need a plugin. So I deselect, and I'm using that to generate a mask here, and it's never super like the quality isn't great in After Effects, so I need to blur it a little bit. Also, I'm getting wonky edges, which you don't really get here. So this is all in Fusion. Everything works linearly. In After Effects, it's a little bit wonky. Like some stuff is not linear. If you don't know about like what linear compositing is, we'll get into that in the next video. But essentially, it's if you're familiar with 3D stuff, like if you have an integer, it's 1.0, 1.2. It's also certain not one. If you have an integer, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With linear, it can be 1.3, 2.6, whatever. But we'll get into the, like, After Effects is like a mixed bag of like linear operations, integer operations, but don't worry, we'll get into that later. So anyway, we have this thing here, and then I make a an adjustment layer here, which I can do some color correction stuff on. So you can see I can change. Let me just enable it. And I noticed that I have it on the caramel here instead of the chocolate, but I could also put it on the chocolate if I wanted to with this this thing here. So let's just, you can see it's there, it's set to whatever. I can also put it to green, and it's gonna be that thing. Yeah, so we're doing that thing with this extra layer, and I want to do some depth blur. So in order to do the depth blur, I need to extract some stuff. And by the way, all this extracting here is done with a plugin, so it's called Extractor. So you put it on, and you can like extract your thing there. So with the depth blur, again, I need to make a pre-comp. So I go pre-comp, then there I have another pre-comp. So you're kind of seeing the thing, pre-comp, pre-comp, pre-comp. So there's the Z pass. You can see that's the Z pass that I extracted. But I need the sort of the white stuff behind it. Like I needed a white background in order to have it like proper Z depth. I don't, because it was adding the alpha in there, else I needed to load it in separately, which would be annoying. So put the white background here beneath it, so then I get a proper Z depth. So then I color correct it a little bit, and the brightness contrast thing never goes over 100, so you put multiple ones on there. Anyway, so now I'm with a proper Z depth, and then I can use the, where is it? I can use the depth blur, so I can reference my Z depth there. And all right, so we add that thing in, and let's turn off puzzle mat. So then we're left with let's turn off mat. So we're left with sort of this composite thing, and also another thing with these beauty comps. By the way, let me just also show. Also another thing that you just run in with After Effects. There's always issues with. Let me just show this with alpha, pre-multiplied alpha. So you like, even if you load it in properly, like you can see, like even if I put it like as straight, you're always left with these edges. So it's just like After Effects is just not ideal. So you need to choke it out. So you do that to fix it. I hope you're starting to see the point why it's like After Effects is just not ideal here. Anyway, so we do the depth blur, we do the grades. So then we're left with this, and then we go another layer up, where we add the background, because what we're doing also in Fusion here is just like we have this thing, and then we crop it out. So then we have this, so we can sort of still reposition it. Like if we don't like the actual composite, like I always render with a little bit of overscan. So After Effects here, we do the same, but so we go out of the thing, we add the background behind there. Because if we add it in the beauty, let me just show you what's going to happen there. And again, this is all still very slow, so it's like it's not ever. You can see like I need to wait on stuff, and I have a 3970X and a 3090, so I don't have a slow machine. So yeah, if I put in here, it's actually not too bad, but you can see a little bit of an edge there. I guess we could leave it in here. So let's just turn it off here. So we have this thing, reposition it, then we do our color correcting thing, and then we're left with sort of the sort of the same, roughly the same composite. But again, this is like, it's pretty slow. So I mean, it's not extremely slow, but it's like pretty slow. And if we do it in here, even if I turn off the proxy, if I turn off my denoising, like it's pretty fast, and also stuff like just like color grading, you can see it's pretty much real time. After Effects, some stuff is fast, but it's not as snappy. You can see it has to cook. Like if I do this, like I have to, let me I have to wait. Boop, and there we are. Well, here in Fusion is just very snappy. So the speed is just Fusion is just a lot faster, and I hope you can also see that this, just looking at this node tree, is just so much faster. And I can also let me see where it was located again. I can also do I always forget where is the thumbnails, force all tiles. You can see you can do stuff like this. You have an easy, so you can make like an easy overview of like what are all my nodes looking like, what do all my nodes do. You can change that also to like only source tiles. I can arrange this, snap this to a grid, can realign stuff. So you can see this is just it's faster and it's easier. And also if I want to sort of reuse a thing, I don't have to jump out of a pre-comp. I can just like, I can let's say I want to mask this effect here. I could also just like drag this thing in here, effect mask, and I'm using the same thing in there, and I can put some stuff in there. So it's that's kind of the difference between like node-based compositing or layer-based compositing. There are benefits to doing stuff like this, to do stuff in with layers. If you have let's say you have a sequence which is not mainly 3D but has like some 3D elements, and then like so you have like 3D elements with a lot of 2D stuff and like text animating in, text animating out. In that case, these layers can be just be easier to sort of organize because you have sort of an edit in your sequence, which you can sort of like easily jump through and like do some. Don't edit in After Effects itself, by the way. I mean it more as like it's easy. Like if I make a text here, it's like whatever, like cheese, and I wanna, let me put this to isolated layer. So let's say I want to have like cheese fly across the thing, and beautiful, and I mean I can do it like that, and it's just easy, and I can time offset, and I mean I can also do that here. I can also do a text layer here, and then cheese, and I mean I can merge that in. Again, put a transform here to. I mean, I can do all of that stuff as well. It's just for if you have super long sequences. I mean, like I also have a keyframe thing here. Like I can also have layers here. But if you have a typical motion designy workflow with like a lot of titles and a lot of things. Then in that case, if you have a ton of these things being stacked up, so let's say I make like another text and I merge it in, and then it's just in that case that's gonna get more chaotic. While in After Effects you can just you can just stack these things and like have like multiple cheeses, move across, and isolate these layers, and so stuff like that, pretty fine. Like I used to do a lot of After Effects type work where I combined 3D elements with like 2D elements. I did a lot of those where I got people who would supply me with illustrations. I would animate the illustrations. Like I did a lot of that stuff back in the day. So for stuff like that, After Effects is perfectly fine. But if you're gonna talk purely compositing, which we're gonna focus on, then node-based is the way to go. So I kind of hope that I've given you a sort of a good overview of like what the difference is between layer-based compositing, node-based compositing. Again, there's also other programs for like node-based compositing. There's like, for example, you also have Nuke, which is super expensive. If you're just a freelancer or like if you're like independent artist, small studio, Fusion is a lot cheaper. Like you can buy Fusion Studio for $260, and Nuke is, I think Nuke X is like $7,000 ish. Let me just check. Nuke buy. It's pretty crazy. Configure Nuke. Just you have Nuke Indie, by the way, which is quite cheap. Alright, it isn't the regular Nuke, but that lacks a lot of features like tracking and stuff. I think Nuke X is by Nuke X by. I think Nuke X is like pretty crazy. Where are they? There we go. All right, there we go. Nuke X, €8,000 even, and there's also maintenance. I think there's like 2,500 a year. Nuke Studio is almost 10,000. So if you're compositing, like if all you do is compositing, then Nuke is probably worth it. Because you're going to spend your entire day compositing. There are people that do that, but for most people like me, for example, I do 3D and I do some compositing. For me, it just doesn't make any sense to do that. Anyway, I hope I've given you a good idea between the difference between layer-based and node-based compositing. So in the next video, we're gonna go actually into just setting up some renders, like setting up these AOV things. If you didn't know what these AOV things were, we're gonna set up a render like to split out like different AOVs, and then we're gonna learn how to composite those in Fusion. I'm gonna show you some stuff both in Resolve and so Fusion in Resolve and Fusion standalone. So yeah, I hope that's going to be interesting. So we're just going to first do it with some just basic, just a very simple basic render. And then later we're going to do a more production oriented composite and production oriented. So first just a very basic stuff with just some simple geometry. So because it's just going to be easier to sort of see what's going on if we just only have a couple of boxes. And then after that, we're going to take it, like I mentioned, into a more production-oriented scene. So anyway, hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully you find it interesting. If you did, leave it a thumbs up. If you didn't, leave it a thumbs down. And if you like to see more of these videos, make sure to subscribe. Anyway, see you in the next video. Peace.